Okay, today we have a couple small jobs to do. Got my tweeters mounted. It's not the most opportune place to put them. They used to be up here in this corner, and then I'd run the wire down there, and yeah, I didn't want to drill any more holes. Worst case scenario, if I don't like the sound of them being there, I can always aim them at the windshield and have the sound bounce back. So those are mounted. I just have to run that wire to the speaker wire, splice it in, done. Easy job. The bigger job is out here. I don't like what's going on here. I put the chip guard to keep the paint from getting chipped up by all the gravel and such, but I just don't like how messy it looks. So I got these things. Just some cheap, kind of plasticky mud flaps. We're going to put those on here right now, and then we'll jump back on the Mustang. Okay, first I need to clean this up. I don't like wiping dirt on a dry paint job, but fortunately it can't really be avoided. I'd like to wash this thing, but it's too time consuming right now. I'm going to line up the top edge here with this body line. Have it out about a ½ inch. About as close to much of it left there. Wow. This unibit is so worn out, I won't even hardly drill through this stuff. A little saw blade action going on my tires here, and I'm a little worried. These things have never worn weird. I haven't changed anything since I did this restoration. It's all the same suspension components. Okay, we're going to have to get up in there and turn the wheel. Hey, Luke! Okay, let's see here. Got this thing on low speed. I've got it a clutch set pretty low so it won't just blast a hole. Hopefully I won't end up rusting these fenders out. God damn it. Okay. Looks like we might be okay on all that. Yeah. There we go. I don't know. Simple looking. I didn't want anything too flashy. Hopefully that'll take care of all that. I mean, this fender, I don't know if you can really see it on camera too well. Let me see here. You see how the fender goes in, where it should be out. See, I can't even move it. And then that's kind of sticks out here too. It's just a really crappy fender. You know, Taiwanese. I suppose it might be better than made in China. I don't know. Their options weren't really, there weren't any options, you know. So, I could even run one in the floor, but I'm not going to. You see, I could put a screw right there and connect it to the floor, but yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it as is. I'm not too worried. I've got enough undercoating underneath here to keep everything fine. Yeah. But yep, that's it. That's what it's going to be. Hopefully that'll be enough. Yep. Okay. Alrighty. So there we go. I didn't want to get too crazy with how far they stuck out, but I think that'll be enough to keep the gravel, sand, all the crap. See, this sounds really bad. On this side, it actually stuck in further. You can kind of see it going back in, but I was able to pull it out, and I did put an extra screw in it. On the other side, it's already stuck out far enough that there's no space for an extra screw. Okay, so now it's going to clean up my mess, and we're going to go. Good morning, welcome to Strip Threads. I am Michael, your host. We are driving down, we're driving down a road next to our house. I gotta say one thing about living in the Pacific Northwest is this is the most beautiful land, I think, in the country. You know, the leaves are turning, they're falling, a lot of different colors, a lot of green still. The sun is actually out today. It is 57 degrees. I'm driving southeast according to this thing. I'm on my way to Everett to get my driver's license renewed. So I thought I'd just take a little video of the drive there, a little vlog or whatever you want to call it. See, I've been driving the Courier. You know, I only work 2 days a week currently, but I've been driving it to work the last couple weeks. There's a bunch of little issues that I need to go through. Like, there's a vibration in the driveline. It's always had it, but it always had a loose U-joint on the rear. When I got the truck, it squeaked. I saw that it was loose. I greased it, intending to change it. I bought a U-joint to change it, had it under the seat for 13 years. And I kept the joint greased. It never got any worse, but there was some looseness in it. And I just assumed that that was what my vibration was. So when I had the cab off and I was going through all that, I put that U-joint in it, and the vibration's still there. Plus, when I changed the transmission too, so the driveline itself is still the original driveline. The yoke is still the original yoke, but the transmission's different. The rear U-joint's different, but it still has about the exact same vibration. It seems like it may not be as bad, but I don't know, maybe you'll be able to pick it up here on the video. Oh, I've got a vibration in the front end, which I'm fairly certain is the rotors. These things, I replaced them 2 years ago, and they're Wagner rotors, so they're good quality. But the calipers decided to stick on me from sitting. And, you know, they got pretty hot. I don't know that they were sitting there smoking, but you could definitely smell them. You could feel the wheel was hot. Of course, these smoothie wheels I've got don't have any kind of air vents in them, so they don't lend themselves to any kind of decent brake cooling. I think I warped them out doing them, and I usually buy really good quality stuff. However, looking at eBay, there is a package of slotted and drilled rotors with semi-metallic pads for like 75 bucks. And he's like, you know, you get what you pay for. Brakes aren't something you just skimp on, but everything looks like really good quality. I figure, well, you know, 75 bucks, I could probably give them a try. They have a pretty decent warranty on them too. So I may do that. There's a lot of wind noise. There's really nothing I can do about that. I mean, the seals are all new, and it's, you know, just the shape of the truck, really. The truck was running, at least according to the gauge, it was running about 2/3 of the way up the gauge, 3/4 of the way up the gauge. When I was hauling that scrap up those hills, fairly warm days, you know, 80 degrees, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, it was getting up there almost to the hot line. And this truck has never really had any kind of issue running hot. The only time it ever ran hot is when it was like 95 degrees and I was in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the freeway with the AC on. That was the only time it got hot. And it didn't get hot. It wasn't overheating or boiling over anything. Just reading high on the gauge. And so I assumed it was just the gauge, but I'm running the sending unit that I was running from day one. Like when I first bought this truck, it was just a low level, low option truck. So it didn't even have a temperature gauge. These cheap Couriers only had the gas gauge, and they had idiot lights for everything else. And so I put a Mazda cluster in it, which gave me a temperature gauge, and it still had a light for the charging system. And I had to change the sending unit from a light switch to a actual sensor. So I still have that in there. And it shouldn't have been running at high. The only change I made, same engine, same radiator, all that stuff, and I even actually cleaned out the radiator with some soft acid and a brush. So if anything, it should have been running cooler. My antifreeze concentration was pretty high, though. I was running like 80% on accident because I didn't want to put tap water in the system. And I knew that could contribute to it. I did put a new thermostat in it, though, when I changed everything over, when I changed the cab over. And I bought a really expensive thermostat. It was like $25 with my employee discount. And according to the catalogs at work, it showed the 84 Mazda used a 195 thermostat. But I looked a little deeper into it, and then it also showed the 85 Mazda used a 180 degree thermostat, both on the gas 2.0. Going back to the Courier, it shows a 180. My old thermostat was a 180. The new one, so I assumed the new one was a 195. I went ahead and bought another high quality 180 degree thermostat, although I bought a stand instead of a Tama. Put it in, and of course the old one was marked 180. Now the thing is running right on the half line, which is still higher than I like, but it's a little bit higher than the old B2000 gauges were. The one thing I did notice, though, is that the temperature gauge just didn't work one day. And every now and then it would do that with the old B2000 dash. And the only thing that's consistent at this point, the wiring harness is, although I don't see any breaks or any corrosion or anything in it. Before I put the harness back in, I made sure all that stuff looked good. The sending unit is the only other thing that's consistent. So I went ahead and changed the sending unit. I also drained out some of the antifreeze and replaced it with distilled water. And of course now the temperature, is 54 degrees. And I'm not hauling a load, so up a mountain, so I don't really have a realistic way of testing it. We'll just keep an eye on it and see, if it's higher. Of course, before it was running 2/3 to 3/4 of the way, just a normal driving, in pretty low temperatures, 60s. Now it's running half to just over half in low temperatures, so, we'll see what kind of difference there might be. What else? Squeaks and rattles really aren't too much there. I mean, I've got my stud gun dent puller here in the styrofoam packaging, and it's kind of squeaking on the seat, but other than that, I don't know. You probably heard the transmission's got just a little bit of a whine to it. I can live with it. Hopefully it won't get any worse. I did have a slight draft over here on the coming from the vent area, which I'm pretty sure is the hole I drilled to run the hood release cable and ambient temperature wire just above the vent door, so I can run it through the vent and out. I didn't have a grommet in it, so I didn't have one that fit, so I went ahead and the hole, I made sure I drilled it big enough to fit one of the floor grommets or floor plugs. I just went ahead and drilled a hole in the middle of one of those plugs and split it, wrapped it around the wire, popped it in the hole. Done deal. I don't feel any draft anymore. At least I don't think I do. Of course, I'm not at freeway speed. hopefully I took care of that. I may have to get in there and do something with the weather stripping. I thought I had a pretty good layer of weather stripping in there. It may not have been. I don't know. Of course, I can't feel anything from that side. There is a small hole that somebody had drilled on that side. I'm just going to put a little caulk in it, or seam seal or something. I still need to seal the windshield. I haven't seen any water dripping down, but I can see over in this corner there's a little line of water between the glass and the seal. And of course, that corner, you know, if I squeeze the seal, you can see all the water that's in it. So that corner isn't sealing really well. And I bought the actual sealer. I just got to tape off the paint, tape off the glass, get the caulking gun down in there, and get it done. Some kind of construction or something over here in the road. Oh, what else? I notice also when I push on the brakes, it pulls a little to the right. I do want to go around and re-bleed the brakes. I mean, having Luke help me pump the brakes is great, but he can't really reach the pedals very well. So I need to have Christy or Mike come over and help me pump up the brakes. I want to go through and just bleed them again. Although I think it's because that rotor, the right front caliper was sticking real bad. They both got hot, but that right front one was the hottest one. That was the one that was stinking. So if it's warped pretty good, that explains the pull. Although I can feel it. Ooh, that big old tree limb fell on the power lines. Happens every year. Some rule or something in the state of Washington that they don't want to trim trees. Like you can see right now, there's trees. You know, the power lines are going through tree branches, through trees. And they don't want to cut them. When a tree falls across the road, they'll cut it out of the road. They'll pile it up on the side of the road, and nobody's allowed to take it. You would figure, hey, somebody can take it out for firewood. Nope, not allowed to. It needs to sit there and rot and return to the environment. I don't know why that's a rule. It just seems kind of stupid to me. Especially around the power lines. I mean, oh, the power's out for a week because a tree branch, you know, fell on the power line. Now we have to replace the whole thing. Well, you know, if they would have trimmed the back. You see them doing it like every 5 years. They'll actually go through and trim some, but you know, a little too late. There's a lot of stuff that didn't happen this summer. I don't know because of COVID or whatever, but you know, they're always paving roads and fixing potholes during the summer months. They didn't do that this year. Although they did chip seal the road out in front of our community. We'll be getting up to highway speed here pretty soon. I'll go ahead and brake until we get to the get through town here and get up to the highway.